Guys, yesterday Android Authority had a big scoop on some details about the Pixel Fold 2, predicting that it would skip the Tensor G3 and go straight to the Tensor G4, potentially releasing in October at the same time as the Pixel 9. Today, they have absolutely outdone themselves, though. What do I mean? Well, let's just look at the article, and I'm going to be real with you. We're going to be kind of reading this at the same time and reacting to what we are seeing kind of together. You in the comments, me here in the video exclusive. This could be the Pixel Fold 2, and of course, they've got a video here with an image you're already seeing, and that camera bump looks very, very strange. Now, guys, you may remember a couple months back, I brought to you a report that the Pixel Fold 2 would be a little bit taller and a little bit larger overall, larger all around. Let's see if that is lining up with what we're seeing here. And here is that photo. Of course, they've got the Pixel Fold next to this. Let's just blow this image up a little bit. And man, oh man, is there a lot to talk about here. First off, the camera bar is gone, right? It is now kind of off to one side. I don't like this change personally, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, seeing as how the Pixel 9 kind of looked like it was adopting the Pixel Fold camera bar, and now apparently the Pixel Fold is abandoning the Pixel Fold camera bar. Another problem with that is that if it's sitting on a table, we're going to reintroduce a wobble that was not there. I do not understand why this is what they're doing. Doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Is this a fourth camera, or are we sticking with 3 cameras and potentially like another sensor, like a time of flight sensor or something like that? Kind of hard to tell immediately, though I can also tell you this does indeed look more narrow than the Pixel Fold 2. It is at an angle, but even still, it appears to me as though we are abandoning, to some degree, the landscape aspect ratio of the original Pixel Fold and going for a much more squared, kind of in the vein of the OnePlus Open aspect ratio. Of course, this means that when you're using the cover display, it's going to lose that mini phone, easy to one hand kind of thing that I love about the Pixel Fold. So at first blush here, guys, I'm not super duper excited about this. Let's scroll down here and look at what they have to say about that camera setup, and I will tell you right now, a link to this article is in the description. We're not going to show everything in this article, so go click on it and go give them a hit for what they're doing here, because it's really, really good stuff. And they're kind of thinking the same thing as I was from looking at that image. It appears there is an unknown something going on there. Is it a sensor? Is it an infrared sensor capable of measuring temperature? I hope it's not a temperature sensor. Who knows what it could be, but there does appear to be something else going on here, but I can't quite tell what it is. That looks square, right? So that should be your telephoto, maybe an ultra-wide, maybe a standard. Is that the standard? There's 4 things here, for sure. So down here towards the end of the article, they say that there is a much more rounded inner and outer display, which I think is pretty interesting. And something else that might kind of hint towards a pretty big change is that there's now a display cutout in the top right corner of the screen for that selfie camera. Obviously, the Pixel Fold currently has the camera in the bezel. I don't think they really mentioned the bezel much in this article. I would assume that means the bezels are getting smaller, which I don't think is going to surprise anybody. Of course, they do end by saying this is still in the EVT stage, very, very early on in production, and all of these things are potentially subject to change because we're still so far away from mass production. But now we have to kind of dig into some of this and talk a little bit of it through. From looking at these images, the biggest thing to me that is just wild, other than changing the camera bar, which I think is a really bad idea, is just the overall aspect ratio of this device. I don't think this looks like a landscape tablet anymore. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the angle is throwing me off, and maybe it is ever so slightly wider than it is tall. But to my eye, this looks taller than it is wide. If we go here, 622, and then if we go this way, we're somewhere like 740. So this thing looks taller than it is wide. That's a really big deal for a whole bunch of reasons. Guys, they literally built a thing into their operating system to force apps to have to stretch across a landscape screen. We know that most apps aren't built for landscape screens. They're built for regular phone screens. So of course, when you launch them on this, a lot of them just had pillar boxing, black bars on either side. So they built this bit of the OS to stretch these apps across. Now there are quite a few applications. We'll just fire up YouTube Music and you'll be able to see this here in just a second. There are several apps that take advantage of the landscape thing, and you have dual panel, Gmail. I mean, they literally went through all of their apps, pretty much all of Google's apps, and built them with this dual panel thing in mind. To then turn around and say, well, that's great, but we're actually going to make our new foldable phone not even be a landscape device is really weird. Factor in that most of their apps only take up this dual panel thing when they're on a device that is wider than it is tall. Microsoft's Android apps seem to pay more attention to overall screen size, and they switch to the dual panel thing just if you're on a large screen. Google has the entire time stuck with wider than tall, you get dual pane. Does that mean their own foldable phone won't have dual pane apps unless you rotate it? Are they going to change gears and go to the Microsoft style? And some other, people have done the same thing where it's large screen equals dual panel applications. We just don't know. But again, this is not just as big a deal as like, oh, they're going from like one aspect ratio to another. Like their software has been built around being a landscape aspect ratio, and it appears as though they are leaving that behind now. Now, I'm sure that's going to kind of render a mixed response from people, right? Some people are going to say, no, I like the fact that it's landscape. Some people are going to say, well, not a lot of apps look that great on a landscape tablet with Android. They're just stretched out apps and they don't look that great. So maybe it's better if we just bring it in and make it a little bit taller and it's more close to an aspect ratio of a phone. So more apps are going to behave correctly. You can make the same argument with the cover display that some people are going to like the fact that it's going to be taller. I mean, to me, guys, that looks remarkably similar to the OnePlus Open. And it is a phone that, whether it's the cover display or it's on the tablet display, it seems to handle pretty much any application pretty darn well. Now, if you're thinking that the comparison to the OnePlus Open is a little bit familiar, perhaps that's because you watched this video that I posted 3 months ago. I was talking in this video about a leak, which came from this video, Greggles TV, friend of the channel, always been very friendly to me, very seemingly nice guy, and they got their information from a source that I can't share with you, but I can say that it's a name you know, and it's a name that you would trust in this genre of leak. And in this portion of the video, what I was doing is I basically made a paper cutout of the dimensions, the screen dimensions given in this leak. Now, of course, they would be rounded on the corners, and I didn't attempt to do that. But if you look at this, and then you look at this, that's not too far off, is it? That looks, again, imagine that we are rounding these corners quite a bit, because that's obviously something that's missing. But that looks pretty doggone close to me. And if we go forward in the video, I actually show it next to the OnePlus Open, and I show you that it's almost exactly the size of the OnePlus Open, which of course means that if you open the thing up, that's what you're going to get. You're pretty much going to get a OnePlus Open. You can see there again, we're ballparking. We're talking about paper cutouts of a device, but you can see it's a little taller and it's a little bit more narrow. And if you go back to the article, that's pretty much exactly what we're seeing. The cover display is narrower, but more importantly, the aspect ratio is closer to square. And guys, I kept the paper cutout all these months, all this time, and that's pretty close to square. And I believe, based on this, we have 2 corroborating leaks. One going back 3 months, and one now with Mishaal Rahman's article here on Android Central. I'm a little bit bummed out about this, to be honest with you. But at any rate, guys, maybe you're very excited. Maybe you love seeing the changes that you are seen in this video, in this article. You can drop a comment down below. Tell me what you think about these changes, the camera alterations there. What do you think about it? Obviously, it's disguised, right? Like they've got a thing over this so you can't really see any details of it, but just use your imagination. Do go, like I said, click on the link in the description and read the article because I intentionally left a few little details out to incentivize you to go do that. Massive shout out and thanks to Michelle for this awesome reporting, guys, which as you can see, I clicked on this link 1 minute after it was posted because I was waiting on this article to be posted. Subscribe for more content just like this. I'll see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.